She thought she had total control over my home, my money, even my peace of mind. She wanted me gone so badly that she ignored emergencies, threatened my security deposit, and screamed in my face. But she forgot one thing. She didn't actually have the power she thought she did, and when I pulled the rug out from under her, she lost everything: her cushy job, her cheap rent, even her pride. This is the story of how I turned the tables on the most manipulative landlord from hell you could ever imagine. If you've ever dealt with a power-hungry landlord, a toxic neighbor, or just someone who lived to make your life miserable, you'll love this story. Hit that like button, subscribe for more revenge tales, and let's dive into one of the most satisfying paybacks you'll ever hear. I had no idea I was stepping into a nightmare the day I moved into that little duplex. On paper, it was perfect. Affordable rent, safe neighborhood, just a short drive from work. The landlord himself, Mr. Turner, seemed like a decent man. He was older, polite, honest. He handed me the keys with a smile, and I thought, finally, some stability. But what I didn't know was that I wasn't really dealing with him on a day-to-day basis. My real point of contact was Giselle. Now, Giselle wasn't the owner. She wasn't even a professional property manager. She was just another tenant living in the other half of my duplex. Mr. Turner had struck a deal with her. Half-priced rent in exchange for managing his 5 duplexes, collecting checks, arranging repairs, and enforcing the rules. Sounds harmless, right? Wrong. From the moment I met her, I knew she didn't like me. But dislike doesn't even cover it. No, Giselle hated me. Imagine the worst HOA Karen you've ever heard of, then multiply it by 10. That was Giselle. She'd scream if my guests parked half an inch too close to her side of the driveway. My phone would blow up if I dared to play music at 10:01 p.m. when quiet hours started at 10. She once rang my doorbell because my blinds weren't evenly aligned. Every little thing was a rule. Every rule was gospel. And Giselle was judge, jury, and executioner. At first, I thought it was just me being overly sensitive. Maybe she was just meticulous. Maybe I could just keep my head down, stay quiet, and ride out my lease. But then I found out the truth. She had wanted her friend, with horrible credit, to rent my half of the duplex. But when Mr. Turner saw my spotless record, he picked me instead. Giselle was furious, so her mission became simple: make my life miserable until I cracked. It started small: lost rent checks, accidentally delayed repairs. Snide comments shouted across the lawn, but slowly it ramped up. The washing machine broke. She ignored my requests for weeks. The oven died. She shrugged it off. Every inconvenience became a test of patience. And with her living right next door, there was no escape. I remember lying in bed one night, staring at the ceiling, listening to a TV blaring through the wall, thinking, is this my life now? A hostage in my own home? I told myself I'd endure, just until the lease ended. I was already planning to move closer to work anyway, but endurance has its limits, and that limit came in the form of a water heater. One morning, I noticed water pooling on the floor near the heater closet. I dried it, put towels down, and shot Giselle an email. No response. A week passed. I forwarded the email, politely reminding her. Hey, just wanted to make sure you saw this. Could become a serious issue, still nothing. Another week. I sent a third message, this time mentioning that a plumber friend had advised immediate attention. Finally, she replied with a dismissive, I'll look into it. And then, silence. I knew what she was doing. She wanted time to run out. My lease was nearly up. If the damage worsened, if mold formed, she could blame me. She even reminded me one afternoon, watering her flowers with that smug smile plastered on her. Hope you're keeping the place spotless. I'm very strict with final inspections. If you expect even a dime of that deposit back, you'd better be prepared for a white glove test. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just incompetence, it was deliberate sabotage. And something in me snapped. About a week later, fate handed me the perfect opportunity. I was walking back from my car when I spotted Mr. Turner himself strolling the neighborhood. Giselle was nowhere in sight. My mind lit up. This is it. I waved him down, thanked him for being a good landlord, and casually asked if he had a moment to inspect the place before I moved out. He agreed without hesitation. Inside, he nodded approvingly at everything. Clean walls, well-kept floors, no damage. Then we reached the water heater. I paused, sighed, and pulled open the closet doors. Sopping towels, water damage creeping along the floorboards. I hope we can come to some kind of understanding about this, I said gravely. He frowned. Did you report this? Oh, did I? I showed him the carefully saved and printed email thread. Weeks of ignored warnings. His face turned crimson. Then came the words that changed everything. Don't worry about your deposit. You're getting the full amount back. And that's when the real plan clicked into place. I had one final rent check due, $750. But with my $500 deposit guaranteed back, why trade checks at all? I looked him in the eye and said, how about I just write you a check for $250 and we call it even? He thought for a moment, shrugged, and agreed. Done. Signed. Paperwork completed. I had officially bypassed Giselle. A few days later, I slipped the $250 into the slot. That evening, my door practically rattled off its hinges. Giselle, foaming, screaming, threatening eviction if I didn't pay the full $750. I calmly explained that my deposit had already been deducted, that the owner himself had inspected, approved, and signed off. Her face. I'll never forget it. The sputtering, the spittle, the sheer rage trying to process the fact that she wasn't in control. And then, my favorite part, I slowly, deliberately closed the door in her face. A week later, Mr. Turner stopped by again, this time to replace the water heater for the next tenant. We chatted as he worked. Casually, he mentioned, "Oh, by the way, my daughter's moving in after you." "She'll be taking over landlord duties," I froze. "And Giselle?" He smirked. "She's moving out." Couldn't afford full rent anymore. That was it. Her reign of terror, gone. Her cushy half-rent deal, gone. Her position of power, gone. She tried to drive me out of my home. Instead, she drove herself right out of hers. There's something deeply satisfying about poetic justice. Giselle thought she had all the power. She believed fear, intimidation, and manipulation could control me. But all it took was a little patience, a little documentation, and the truth to bring her crashing down. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't loud. It's quiet, subtle. Watching your enemies self-destruct while you walk away clean. And that's how the so-called landlord from hell lost her home and her job in one single move. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, what's the pettiest or most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more stories where karma comes knocking.